Hey everyone, it's Jeannie here. Today I am joined by beloved vocalist, worship leader, speaker, man of God, Charles Billingsley. He has a new album, The Shadow of Your Smile, that I'm sure is just a treat for all of us who's been listening to him for over 3 decades, that he's been just releasing a sound of worship and praise, and now we have a nice treat from him. Charles, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Jeannie. Thanks for having me back. It's been a couple of years now, I think.
Yeah, we were just talking about that the last time we saw each other. You had just literally battled and slayed COVID. It was your testimony was just incredible. I remember
Mm,
how it even ministered to so many of our readers, just
mm,
listening to how
mm.
God kind of revealed himself to you through such a crazy time.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. 30 days of that stuff was plenty for me. Of course, there are people that battled that virus for months on end, but it does bring back some rough memories, not just how you feel, but also all the people, that we lost.
Yeah.
But, there's also some really good memories. I wouldn't trade it for anything on all the stuff I learned from the Lord and just a sort of a renewing of my faith and just powerful times of worship. I don't know of anybody that ever walks through a valley that comes through the valley having not learned something and actually not appreciating it. You don't want to be in the valley when you're there, but when you get to the other side, you're always reminded of what you learned through it. And so I look back at those days with fondness and also some heartache as well. So I'm just glad to be through it.
Yes, amen. Well, we're grateful for that as well. So talk to us about the new album, the new release.
Oh man. Well, it's crazy, So after COVID, and of course the funny part about that story, and we talked about this the last time I was on, was that the record was releasing actually the same day, or one of the days I was in the hospital. It's called I Was Made for This. And then I finally get through all that stuff. And then over the course of the next year, I just really felt like I wanted to make a record that was truly just a singer's record, like songs that people love through the past. I've always wanted to do it. But for 20 years, I wanted to make this record. And so I just decided I would reach out through the last several decades, find some of the greatest songs ever written, and do orchestrated arrangements of them, and put out a record full of just wonderful, beloved American classics. And they're not Christian songs, but many of them have Christian overtones in the sense that we're talking about love, peace, joy, happiness, goodness, kindness, all of which come from the Lord. And so I did this for a couple of reasons. Number one, I just felt like after 2 years of dealing with a pandemic, I hadn't seen anybody's face in 2 years, and I just wanted to see somebody smiling again. Sitting on those airplanes, you don't see anybody. And I was sitting there on a plane this morning, and I thought, wow, that's the first flight attendant I've seen smiling down and up and down the aisles in a long, long time. And it was, it's just kind
Wow.
of neat and so I wanted to do a record that would put a smile on people's face, and I wanted it to go outside of the church. I wanted to do a record that would reach a broad audience, and hopefully just open their hearts and minds to a greater truth. And so I did this record solely aimed at people who don't go to church, people who are not part of the faith. But I did it so we could put a smile on their face as well. And of course, Christians like this record too. These are just great songs.
Yeah, they're really great, and you sound amazing. It's
You're
just you
kind.
really no, really, it was they're really great. I mean, I put you head to head with Buble any day. Like
Oh,
you were
wow.
amazing. Yeah, it was amazing.
Well, it is kind of funny. We got a lot of big band on there, which is very Bublé. And then it's really kind of, I tell everybody, it's sort of a cross between Michael Bublé and Andrea Bocelli, because we have some classical things on there. We got some Broadway stuff on there. We got some great old jazz tunes, and then of course some classic big band as well. It's a large record. It's 15 songs.
Yeah, it must have been interesting. I'm a worship leader as well. And, I love a good song. And there's times where I'll take a good song and I forget that it's not about Jesus. And I'll just
Hmm.
like you're singing it and then you're like, oh, wait, this is not actually written towards Jesus, but hey, it's a love song. That must have been funny for you after so many decades of singing,
Well,
just strictly music for the minute for worship and ministry.
totally. In fact, a few of these songs, like "Bring Him Home," say, for instance, from Les Mis. I mean, that's such a story of redemption. It was almost a worshipful experience in the studio recording that.
Wow.
Songs like "You'll Never Walk Alone." I mean, okay, no, it doesn't mention God, but it might as well because it's such a song of hope. "Let There Be Peace on Earth." I guess you could call that a Christian song. It certainly talks about God, but one of the things that was so funny, Gene, is that we debuted this album on May 13th in my little town there in Lynchburg, Virginia, with the full symphony, and it was a wonderful night. It was a sold out show, and one of the things I was concerned about was I knew I would have a room full of people who don't go to church. They don't know the Christian lingo. And I was so afraid because for 30 years that's all I do. So
Yeah.
I was very conscious about what I was saying and how I was saying it, and that I didn't drop a bunch of just, church lingo on these folks. And and it was a challenging night because, for the first time in my life, I did a concert full of songs that are not worship songs. And I think I caught myself a few times just doing this, just because that's just what I do. But I'm trying to express the hope of these songs in a way that's more horizontal than vertical. And I tell you, man, it's been so fun to sing these songs for people because they love them and they recognize them, but also to just hopefully uh, creak open the door of hope into their soul. It has been incredibly fun to watch. So
Oh,
I'm hoping I have a lot more opportunities to do these songs around the world.
yeah, amen. I'm for that for you, amen. Talk
Thank you.
about just, sometimes people get nervous when artists do secular music or things. Like that must have been an interesting thing for you too. We always have those extra holy rollers who will say, oh, why did you even do that? How did you
Uh,
kind of venture into that? Like knowing that you're
uh,
gonna have that.
yeah, I mean, after 30 years of doing Christian music, I expected a little bit of a backlash. Surprisingly, we've had very, very little. I
Good.
think partly because of the nature of these songs. It's not like I'm singing about shacking up with some woman or doing drugs or whatever. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
singing about things that are ordained by God. But I feel like I did this record with such a heart of ministry because I really do want to just be in front of a larger audience. I'm not going to preach to them, but I am going to sing about hope to them, and I'm going to give them hopefully a glimpse of what real love is about, and it's beyond just a physical thing.
Mhm.
And give them some truth, and there's so much truth that you can speak about without being offensively biblical or offensively Christian. And at the same time, it opens their mind and their heart to what could be very much a biblical truth. And and it's been so fun to watch because for the most part, I'm getting cheered on by my Christian brothers and sisters to go out there and do this. I think
Yeah.
only because they know my motive and they know my heart. My
Yeah.
motivation is not fame, it's not riches. I just want to have, I want to earn the right to be heard in front of an audience that doesn't know the Lord at all. And I'm not going to be, you know, overly aggressive, but at the same time, I won't back down from what I believe and the fact that I'm a Christian before I'm a singer. And so sometimes people don't know how to handle that. Like I've had a few folks tell me, look, I'm not really sure how to promote this record because you've got all this Christian history. And I'm like, well, just treat me like I'm a new artist in a new field. I mean, this is just a
Wow.
new genre for me. So let's just approach it as though I'm, there's nothing different about me than Michael Bublé, except for maybe a difference in how we view the world or a Christian worldview. I think somebody like a Michael Bublé is a great guy, strong marriage. I think I don't really know him. I wish I did, but the only thing about me is that I'm simply a Christian who's delivering songs of hope to the world and the masses rather than just to the church. And that's the only difference. In fact, I'm still doing a lot for churches. I'm here in a church right now training
Right.
worship leaders. So I
Right.
still do a ton of that. But at the same time, I wanted what my former pastor would call a salt ministry, an opportunity to bring salt to the world that is definitely needing some hope.
I love that. Wow. I love the way you said that. The salt ministry. That's so wonderful. So which
Hmm.
one of these classics are you most proud of endeavoring into
Oh,
or recreating?
woo, man. I don't know. I think the first one that comes to mind, maybe Bring Him Home, only because look, everybody and their brother sung that song. But we uh we had the guy arrange it who's directed more Les Mis shows around the world than anybody in history. He did the arrangement and added a key change in that song, which had never been done before. And it's a
Wow.
beautiful arrangement. His name is Brian Eads, and he's become a good friend. And he did such a magnificent arrangement of that song. That might be one of the really standout moments. Another one is a song called "Time to Say Goodbye," which was Andrea Bocelli and Sarah Brightman originally recorded that song. I recorded it with a young lady named Adelaide Trombetta, who's a professor at Liberty, which is where I work and where I teach some. And she's an amazing talent. And the reason I've always loved that song, but the reason it stands out to me is because something happened in the studio there that I'd never seen before. I've had moments when I'm recording a song where I'll record a good portion of the song, maybe close to the whole thing, but still have to make a few fixes. Well, this young lady, Adelaide, she speaks 5 languages fluently. and and she's just this amazing technician when it comes to phonetics and how to pronounce things in other languages. And of course, that song is mostly in Italian, except for 3 words: "Time to Say Goodbye." Everything else is in Italian. And I know, and I was an opera minor in college and all that, but I had her come in and coach me on the phonetics and making sure I was doing all this Italian correctly. And in the process of that, she starts singing me these lines, and I'm like, I need somebody to do this duet with me. You should be the one that does this. And she said, "Oh, no, I've never sung in a studio. There's no way I could do that." And I said, "Well,
Wow.
we've got Tim Davis here in the studio, who's like the number one vocal producer in the world. He can help you." And she goes, "Well, I've never sung in a studio. I've always just done live opera stuff." I said, "Just give it a shot." So she goes in there, and for the first time in her life, she puts headphones on and is going to sing into a mic in the studio. And once we got her placed from the right distance from the mic, because she had no idea where to stand or anything, we just hit play on the track, and what you hear on that record is is one take. She did that whole thing in
What?
one in one take.
Wow. Okay. She put us all to shame, huh? She never been in the
Oh,
studio one taking things.
listen,
Wow.
it was it was it was disgusting. I was just like, what on earth? And so, but Tim looks at me and he goes, "Man, I got nothing." I said, "Me neither." And I think we did one quick little fix, and it was more of a phrasing thing than it wasn't a vocal thing at all. And then she was done. And so then for the next 2.5 hours, I'm in there kind of going through every syllable of every Italian word, making sure I'm getting it right. So I tell everybody that vocal took about 3 hours, and 15 minutes of it was her, and the rest of the time was me.
Oh my gosh. She has a false understanding now of what studio singing is because she's gonna
Yeah,
think and maybe she will have that luck that every time she goes in, she one takes it. That's amazing.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I was like, don't get this, don't start thinking you can do a whole album in a day now, sister. Watch out. But she's amazing, and I had her as part of the concert that night on May 13th when we debuted the record. And she's just one of these rare talents. I mean, has a 5-octave range, and just it's pretty ridiculous. So she's on the record, and it really is a wonderful arrangement. And so there's some standout moments, but I guess if I had my druthers, my favorite thing to listen to on the record is just the slow, soft, jazzy numbers like The Shadow of Your Smile, like If Ever I Would Leave You. And then, of course, the one that Taranda did with me called The Very Thought of You. Some of those are just so easy listening and super chill. It's a great album just to throw on while you're making dinner or having dinner with friends. And it's the reason I made it. I wanted people just to be able to throw that on in their house while they're having a party or whatever, and it just feels right.
Yeah, it's definitely feel good music. I thank you for that. So last thing before I let you go, because I know you have a very busy schedule today. You're still teaching. Look, you're out there right now, ready to host worship leaders and encouraging and stuff like that, and still teaching and ministering to people. How do we keep smiling? We just watch the news and we see tragedy upon tragedy, children.
Yeah.
Just there's a lot of things to make us sad and down. How do we keep smiling? If you can give us some advice.
Man, I love that question, Jeannie. That's such a great question, because you're right. It is hard to smile sometimes. In fact, I don't watch the news late at night because I can't sleep. Um, when you look at all that's going on in this world, it is hard to smile, and it's hard to be happy. But there's a difference between happiness and joy. Happiness is temporal, joy is eternal. Happiness is based on what happens, joy is based on who you are. And what keeps me smiling is not what happens to me or doesn't happen to me in and out of every day. It's not based on my circumstances or situation. What keeps me smiling is something that's deeper. It's a joy that only comes from the author of that joy, and his name is the Lord Jesus. So in the end, I may not be able to share that in a secular interview, but in the end, I know this, that the joy that I have in my heart comes from the Lord, and I can smile and rejoice in the midst of even the deepest, darkest valleys of my life, simply because I've got a hope that's beyond what I'm going through right now. And that's something that the world just doesn't understand, because their hope and their happiness, and they would call it joy, is based off of something that's only right here and right now. And when they don't have that anymore, then that's the source of their comfort and happiness. Then when that's taken away from them, they don't know how to respond other than in pure misery. And that's what we're looking at now, which is why a kid like Salvador Ramos will go into a school in Uvalde, Texas, and shoot and kill 21 innocent people who didn't do anything to him, but his source of joy and happiness or self-sufficiency or whatever has been broken. Maybe it was by bullying, maybe it was by a fight with his grandmother, whatever it might have been. And they're still kind of studying this, but at the same time, when that was broken, he had no other choice but to respond in a horribly violent way in his mind and heart. And it's because he didn't have something that was deeper. He didn't have a joy that's eternal. He didn't have a hope that's everlasting. And unfortunately, he's an extreme example of millions of people around the world. And they're not going to take a gun and kill somebody, but you know what? They're going to live in misery simply because they're basing their entire life off of something temporal instead of something that's eternal. And you know what? If you're ever going to smile for a lifetime, the only way to do it is by knowing Christ. And so for us to get our smile back as Americans, it's going to take a lot more than just a good economy or lower gas prices. It's going to take something more. It's going to take a revival of the spirit. It's going to take a change that comes from within. And only God can bring that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, that was an incredible answer. It's so true. And I thank you for that. And thank you for giving us a reason to smile with your music and your heart for
Mm.
ministry still in the midst of it all. Thank you so much, Charles.
Well, I would just encourage everybody, do your best to enjoy the day. Even in the worst of situations, you can find something positive and something to smile about. So I hope that people will put a smile on their face today, even through the midst of tragedy, and just know that the real joy, the real strength, the joy of the Lord is my strength, he says. It comes from him and him alone.